Good morning, everyone, and happy Sabbath. Welcome to another segment where we discuss some pressing topics. And today, here with me is Pastor Henrik David, and he is an intern pastor of the Georgetown Number 2 District. Welcome, Pastor, and happy to have you.
Thank you so much.
He's also a marriage and family life psychologist and therapist, and also a trained teacher. So he has quite a number of things attached to his name. And I hope today the topic that we will be discussing, we will be able to have some answers to many of the questions we have as we go forward, especially in this pandemic time. So, Pastor, today our topic for discussion is depression and grief. Now, this is something that we were never allowed to talk about, depression. You know, over the years, this has been something that is kept under the curtains or under the carpet. Now, why depression and grief? Why did you choose to visit this topic?
I choose to visit the topic depression and grief because of the fact that the world is experiencing collective grief, meaning most, if not all of us, are grieving at the same time for either one or the other thing. It probably could be life or something that is non-living. You know, you could be grieving for a car that you would have lost, for a house, for a family, for a job, for finances, or the death of loved ones. You know, so we grieve for many things. And based on a topic that I did some time ago, I talked about the fact that based on how connected you were to that thing or how that thing defined you, it would affect the way you grieve. So because we are dealing with grief and depression is a stage in grief, doubt, denial or doubt, and you have anger, you have depression, you have acceptance, you have bargaining coming before. You know, all those are the stages of depression. And of course, the stages are not going to run from stage to stage, but persons can skip stages or, you know, you can go back and forth. So because depression is a stage in the grief process, it's incumbent upon us to speak on depression.
Thank you so much, Pastor David. So tell us, what is depression and what is grief? And what are the signs of depression?
Okay. First of all, depression is a mental state characterized by loneliness, sadness, despair, low self-esteem, and self-reproach. So it is a prolonged period of sadness and loneliness and helplessness. Sometimes what folks do, they misinterpret mood with depression. So sometimes you have a low mood and you think it's depression, but it's not necessarily depression, because what happens, sometimes all of us, because of situations, because of conditions, because of encounters, we experience a low mood. You know, but depression is prolonged. It happens over a prolonged period of time. That's why when you come to a psychologist like me, we have a scale that we use that we can rate you to tell you whether you are severely depressed or whether you're suffering from mild depression or any other kind of depression. And grief, we know grief is that sad feeling that you have after experiencing the loss of a loved one, or you would have lost something that you would have been connected to, something that defined your life in the past.
Okay, Pastor, thank you. So are you saying that there is a difference between being depressed and feeling depressed?
I'm saying that there's a difference between grief and depression.
Okay, thank you. So, but I want to ask you this again, and I hope it don't seem as I'm being redundant. Is there a difference with me feeling depressed or having or experiencing depression? Is it the same thing or is there a difference?
Well, if you feel depressed, and you visit the professional, the scale can actually speak for itself, saying whether you're depressed or not. Because depression is an encounter that you have psychologically, mentally, emotionally over a period of time, 2 weeks or more, right? Some of the scales will say it to you. And feeling depressed, of course, as I'm saying, mood again. You can mistaken a sad mood for depression. You may feel depressed, but that may be for a particular period of time because of something that you would have just experienced. Whereas depression is over a prolonged period of time.
Thank you for clarity. What is the situation with adults and children? Do they go through the same? Is depression the same with children as with adults?
Well, it differs. It differs, but to some extent, some symptoms are the same. First of all, allow me to outline some symptoms for you, and I will give you some situations where some symptoms may fall to the children, while some may fall to the adult. So if a person is depressed, you encounter or you experience different symptoms. You experience loss of appetite. You don't feel to eat some of the things that you once enjoyed eating. Loss of appetite, loss of sleep. You don't get sleep like you usually would have gotten in the past, 7 to 8 hours or more, right? So loss of appetite, loss of sleep, loss of weight. You kind of experience social detachment or social suicide, some people call it, where you detach from other people, from family and friends, people who you once used to be collaborating with and enjoying the friendship, the act of communication. You used to have it face to face, you know, the bond, the connection. You no longer have, but you're now disconnected. And as a result of that disconnection, you can also suffer from suicidal ideation, where you begin to think of thoughts on suicide. All right? You have loss of enjoyment in things that you once enjoyed. So you don't do those things that you once used to be doing. You find it hard to come out of bed and to operate in the normal world. So you don't go to work as you normally would. You know, you feel the sense of shut down, where you are unable to function, you're unable to do things that you once used to be doing before. You're not so much connected with friends and family. So all those are some symptoms that one would experience as a result of suffering from depression. Fatigue, you know, numbness. You feel as though you are experiencing cramps in some parts of the body. Confusion of thoughts. All these are some symptoms that one may experience based on the level of depression that you're experiencing. If it's mild depression or severe depression or some other. All right? So in the case of a child, if a child lost his dad through divorce, you know, he will encounter this form of, or can encounter rather, that form of depression where he withdraws from mommy. He withdraws himself from siblings. He withdraws himself from friends in school, and it affects his grades. You know, it affects his performance in school. It affects his communication level because he's not telling mommy things that he used to be telling mommy on a daily basis. Mommy, I had a good day. My teacher said this, that. He's not so much expressive and open, so he shuts down. Whereby if a parent is suffering from depression, you would find that that parent is troubled in a lot of ways. You may not socialize with your husband or your wife in the way that you once used to. You may not perform your duties as you once used to be doing in the home, cooking and cleaning, but you find it hard to do so because of the fact that having these additional pressures with depression, it affects you from functioning.
All right, thank you, Pastor David. What about where they say it has to do with our culture, depression? Is it relative to culture? Is it hereditary? Or could it be, how is it developed? I mean, you said over a number of years people can experience depression. Are there cases where you just go through it for a short period, like a month, a day, or how is it developed?
All right, thank you for the question. And of course, you're talking about heredity and environment. Some research, some scholars, yes, would trace depression to heredity in some sense. And if you go deeper into clinical psychology, you would understand that if a mother is severely depressed, it can affect the unborn child. You know, it can affect the unborn child in many ways. Hence the reason the mother can produce a slow learner in the classroom. The brain is not developed fully, the child's brain, so the child becomes a slow learner. The child is slow to reacting to certain things in the environment as compared to a normal child. So depression can affect the unborn child in many ways. And of course, heredity and environment. The environment that the child grows up in can affect the child. It can kind of cause depression. If mommy and daddy are having continuous, constant argument, prolonged argument, cussing and fighting, mommy is hitting at daddy, daddy is hitting at mommy, and the child has to witness these kind of things. The brain codes it. You know, I have another thought on another topic on depression and how it affects the brain. The brain codes that struggle in the family. And of course, the networking in the brain is different so that it affects the normal functioning of the brain. It shuts your brain down. It robs the brain from proper production of serotonin, happy hormone, which kind of, if it's limited, it helps you to be more prone and more susceptible to depression. So heredity and environment are two key factors that can cause depression. And more so, if you have, if you had depression before, being in a kind of environment that will stimulate depression can worsen your depression.
Thank you so much. Well, we just got 4 minutes remaining, and I'm really enjoying this. I want to ask you, as it pertains to our religious conviction, what is the church doing for persons who might be experiencing depression?
All right. Persons who are experiencing depression in the church, I think the church is doing what it can do based on the resources that it has available. So first of all, our Adventist church, with a survey that we did recently, we realized that our church has a number of social workers, few psychologists, some mental health professionals and so forth, not many in Guyana. And so what the church is doing, the church is kind of harnessing these resources and making it open or accessible so that people can come and people can get help. So right now at Central SDA Church, we have our counseling center whereby professionals are there, myself and others. We give support to people who are suffering from depression. And of course, the church, we normally say that the health is the right hand of the gospel. If you look at depression, one way of coping with depression is to eat healthy and exercise. You know, eat healthy and exercise. Or new start, as I always say, nutrition, exercise, water, sunlight, temperance, rest, air, and trust in God. So eating healthy, the church promotes that. And exercise, the church promotes that. You know, as I talk about exercise, I remember myself in Durban Park this week. I was running, I made 5 laps. And some people were looking at me and they were probably in their mind, they were saying, what kind of African man is this? He's just running non-stop. 5 laps around Durban Park. You know, exercise is very good. It helps to build that kind of resilience, that kind of body strength. And of course, it contributes to the brain and the energy and the hormones that it needs to produce in fighting against depression. So the church is doing a great lot.
All right. As our time goes quickly, I know that you were a teacher. Mm-hmm. When you notice a student seemingly has depression, mm-hmm. how do you approach that child? What do you say to them first? Is it just okay to say, oh, snap out of it? You know, you tell somebody you're depressed. Oh, I feel depressed. And they say, oh, come on, bounce up, get up, go do something. Wear something bright, do something exciting. Mm-hmm. Is it that easy to get out of it?
No. First of all, let me begin with the attachment and influence theories. If you are more attached to a person, then you can be of a greater influence to a person. If you're lesser attached to a person, you're lesser influence to that person most times. So what a teacher should do is try to first develop a good teacher-pupil or teacher-student relationship, so that as you develop that one-to-one connection with the child or the student or the pupil, based on whatever age they're at, that person becomes attached to you, and hence the reason that person can open up to you. So, first of all, being a teacher, for a number of years, you see a child comes into the classroom, you know that that child is going through some parental struggles or so forth. There's not good parent relationship between parent and the child. You kind of call the child and you show love to that child. How are you doing today? Are you okay? And, you ask certain questions that will not be offensive. So you befriend the child and you ask questions and you let the child know, first of all, that if what you're saying to me is good to remain confident between you and I'm going to keep it in confidence. But if I cannot keep it in confidence because what I'm keeping will be a part of me participating in breaking the laws of Guyana, I will have to guide you to other authorities, and I can guarantee that they will help you to overcome the kind of stressful environment that you're in that contributes to the depression or depressed state that you're in.
Well, thank you so much, Pastor David. I think our time is up, but just before we go, can you give us contact number, information that we need to, if the person's looking, watching, viewing, and they think that they might be going through depression or they know someone, is there any help for that person?
Yeah. Of course, we as a church, again, would have provided some help. We have myself and we have Sister Mentor. The two of us are at the moment at the counseling center. We have a number of other social workers, but you meet with us and we can refer you if needs be. So
could you give us some numbers?
One number is 661-7676. 661-7676. You can work with that. You can call the conference too, and the conference can then channel you to us, any one of us, and we can deal with your struggles or your problems.
Thank you so much. Our time is up, and I pray God continues to bless you and bless your ministry. Thank you
So much.